Assalamualaikum. Today we will study mitral valve stenosis. First we will understand the definition and the concept, and then we'll move on to cause, clinical features, etc. This is the normal heart, and if you want to understand the anatomy and the physiology of the normal heart and the circulation, then I will put the link in the description of my video which I made about this topic. But since today we are studying mitral valve stenosis, so I will only discuss the mitral valve briefly. What happens is that the left atrium and the left ventricle are communicated through mitral valve. From left atrium, blood goes into the left ventricle through mitral valve or bicuspid valve. Normally, its width is 4 to 6 centimeters square, but what happens in mitral stenosis that its width is reduced to 1 to 2 centimeters square. So pressure in the left atrium increases, so pressure in the pulmonary vein increases, lungs increases, pulmonary artery increases, and hence pressure in the left ventricle increases, and less blood goes into the right ventricle increases, and less blood goes into the left ventricle because of its reduced width. So the pressure but if much pressure increases in the left atrium, then the mitral valve can open a bit and the blood can go into the left ventricle, but still it's not sufficient. So this is the whole physiology or pathology of the this is the whole physiology of the mitral valve, and this is the pathology of the mitral valve stenosis. Now we will move on to causes. I have made a video about rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease, so if you want to see it, I will put the link in the description too, because it is a very important disease, rheumatic heart disease, as it is one of the leading cause of mitral valve stenosis. So rheumatic heart disease will cause it. Age can cause it, because with age our valves loses its elasticity, they become more calcified, stenosed. If the patient has a congenital heart disease, then a patient can also develop mitral valve stenosis. It depends on the congenital heart disease. Moving on to clinical features, the patient will have dyspnea. First, I will name the clinical features, and then one by one we will discuss that why these features develop, because it's very important to understand that why these develop. If you don't understand the clinical features and the reason behind them, then you won't be able to solve the scenario or diagnose the scenario. Clinical features are dyspnea, number 1, number 2, hemoptysis, number 3, chest pain, number 4, palpitation, number 5, embolization, number 6, right heart failure, and number 7, hoarseness, and number 8, dysphagia. The clinical features: dyspnea. Number 1. Why does it develop? Because as the pressure in the left atrium increases, the pressure in the pulmonary vein increases. So the pulmonary hypertension will start to develop because of increased pressure, and the lung reduces its compliance, and the pulmonary vein also reduces its compliance. What is compliance? Basically, it's the ability of the lungs to stretch. So the pulmonary compliance is also reduced because obviously as the more blood accumulates, the lung will lose its ability to stretch because there will be no space for it. Hemoptysis. Why does hemoptysis develop? Because as the pressure in the lungs increases, there is increased chance of the bronchial veins to rupture. If they rupture, the patient can develop hemoptysis. It is also due to increased pressure. Chest pain. The pressure in the right atrium increases, as I have told you in the pathology, that the pressure in the left atrium increases, pressure in the pulmonary vein increases, lungs increases, pulmonary artery increases, and then in the right ventricle increases. So the patient can have chest pain. Palpitation. As the pressure in the left atrium increases, patient can develop atrial fibrillation. What is atrial fibrillation? It is an arrhythmia which develops when the left atrium beats abnormally, because it has increased blood, there is increased pressure, so it will beat irregularly. So the patient will develop palpitation. Embolization. There is an increased chance of first developing pulmonary embolization and then later on developing systemic embolization. It is also due to increased pressure. Right heart failure. I have already told you why right heart failure develops. Hoarseness due to compression of the left recurrent laryngeal nerve. There is a left recurrent laryngeal nerve located here behind the left atrium, and as the left atrium increases in size, it will compress the left recurrent laryngeal nerve. So the patient will develop hoarseness. Dysphagia. Also, the esophagus is located behind it. So as the left atrium increases in size, patient can develop dysphagia as the esophagus will be compressed. Now we will move on to examination. First we will do, as examination has 3 steps. In heart, percussion is not so important and it does not have a significant role. There are 3 major steps only: inspection, palpation, and auscultation. On inspection, we will expose the patient, and what we will see is that there will be left parasternal pulsation, and there will be a bulge. Why will there will be a bulge? Because of increased left atrium size and right heart size. On palpation, since mitral valve is located where we palpate the apex beat, so apex beat is very important to palpate in this condition. On apex beat, what we will see that the apex beat will not be displaced in most of the cases, but if the patient has silent MS, which we will discuss later on, then it is possible for the apex beat to be displaced. Apex beat will in most cases not be displaced. Okay, all right. In the apex beat will not be displaced, but it can be tapping or heaving in character. Tapping because if the mitral valve closes suddenly, and heaving because if the patient develop and heave because if the patient develop right ventricular hypertrophy. Next, we will do the auscultation. Also, in palpation, you have after palpating the apex beat, you have to palpate each of the heart valve. That is the aortic valve, the pulmonary valve, and the tricuspid valve. So, in pulmonary valve, we will notice that there will be palpable P2 in some cases. On auscultation, if the heart valve is pliable, meaning it is not calcified, it is not stenosed, then its leaflets are then we will say that its leaflets are pliable. So loud first heart sound, there will be loud first heart sounds if the valves are pliable, and if the valves are not pliable, then it will convert into second heart sounds, which I will explain later on. Also, what will be the added sounds? There will be loud P2. I have told you it can be palpable, it can be auscultated, it can be loud on auscultation. After that, there will be an opening snap, that is the mitral valve opens suddenly due to increased pressure in the left atrium. And also there is a murmur. What is the murmur of mitral valve stenosis? This answers the question on the previous this also answers the question on the previous video that I made on rheumatic fever, and I asked a question that what is mid diastolic murmur and which disease does it represent. So it represents mitral valve stenosis. It is the murmur of mitral valve stenosis, mid diastolic murmur. Why mid diastolic murmur? Why not systolic murmur? Because as we know, in dystole there is filling of the heart. So as the left ventricle is not filling properly, so the patient will develop mid diastolic murmur. After auscultation, if the patient, you cannot auscultate mitral valve or apex beat, you cannot palpate, then it means there is a possibility that the left atrium has increased so much in size that it has pushed the left ventricle towards the posterior or the mid axillary line, and it is here that you will auscultate or palpate the mitral valve. So also while you are palpating or auscultating the patient of the mitral valve disease, and you have a brief idea that it can be a mitral valve disease after history, so make sure you palpate and auscultate the mid axillary and the posterior axillary line. After after these three major steps, we will do GPE. In GPE, what will be the main feature? That the patient will have malar flush. What is malar flush? That the patient cheeks will be pinkish purple. There will be a pinkish purple tint. Pulse rhythm will be irregular. Pulse can be small or normal in volume, but rhythm will be irregular. As I have told you, atrial fibrillation will develop. GVP will be raised. What is Graham-Steele murmur? Another murmur of mitral valve stenosis. If pulmonary hypertension develop, then in that case there will be three things: palpable P2. On auscultation, we will find loud P2 and Graham-Steele murmur. This is due to pulmonary hypertension. It means that the person is going towards severe MS, and he is developing or she is developing complications. Then how we can tell that the mitral valve is complicated? Well, by starting off, we will first say that if the heart valves are not pliable. And how we will know that the mitral valve is not pliable? Well, if the loud S1 changes into soft S1, that is loud first heart sound changes into soft first heart sound, then we will say that the patient is moving toward complications. Also, if the patient develop Graham-Steele murmur, opening snap is closer towards second heart sound, and the mid diastolic murmur length is increased, then we can see that the patient is moving towards complications. Also in comments, tell me that what are the complications of the mitral valve stenosis. I have already discussed here, And if you have closely listened to the clinical features, then you will know that what are the complications mentioned to any three. Investigations in any heart disease, there are basically three investigations: ECG, echo, and X-ray test. What ECG will tell us? Well, I have told you in previous video that first we will have to draw a normal ECG to understand the pathological ECG. In normal ECG, this is P wave, this is Q, this is R, this is S, and this is T. But in mitral valve stenosis, the ECG will have wide and notched P wave, normal Q wave, but the R wave will be tall in lead V1 and the S wave will be deep in lead V6. These leads V1 and V6 are very important because tall R wave in lead V1 and deep S wave in lead V6 represent right ventricular hypertrophy. But if we opposite this, if we make it opposite, then it represents left ventricular hypertrophy, as we will discuss further on in the next video. I hope you understand the ECG. Echo. What echo tells us that what is the severity of disease, how much the valve is involved, it is pliable or not pliable, what is the condition of left atrium, and what is the condition of left ventricle. So it even tell us in millimeter that how much the left atrium is enlarged. This information we will get from echo. So we know that left atrium will be enlarged, but how much enlarged, that we will depends on person to person. We will also discuss it in treatment. It also tells us the leaflets are pliable or not. By leaflets I mean that the valve is pliable or not. X-ray test. X-ray test tells us that what is the condition of the lungs, what is the condition of the pulmonary area. It tells us that the important sign of X-ray test in mitral valve stenosis is Curly-Bay lines. Curly-Bay lines. What are Curly-Bay lines? These are located at the claustrophrenic angle, and you can notice them there. If they are present, then it means that the person has mitral valve stenosis. Also, it will tell us whether the left atrium is enlarged or not. These are the investigations, and now we will move on to the treatment. What is the medical treatment? If the patient has mild dyspnea, also I forgot to tell you that the patient will have exertional dyspnea, mean on exertion he will have dyspnea, orthopnea, on lying down he will have dyspnea, and paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea. What is paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea? That in the middle of the night he will wake up coughing and feeling shortness of breath. Medical treatment. If the patient has mild dyspnea, then what is the treatment? That we will give the patient salt restriction and low dose diuretics. But if the patient develops sinus block rhythm, then what we will do, we will give the patient beta blockers. Rickshaw is going by. Then we will give the patient beta blockers to reduce the heart wave. And if on echo, here comes the importance of the echo. And if on echo, if the left atrium size is enlarged, left atrium size is more than 55 millimeter, then we will give anticoagulation. And also we will give anticoagulation if there is previous history of any embolization. Atrial fibrillation. If the patient has developed atrial fibrillation, then what we will do? First, we will have to control the heart rate by giving beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, or digoxin. Then we will have to do catheterization. What is catheterization? Then we will have to do cardioversion. Before doing cardioversion, we will have to give patient warfarin or heparin. And also we will have to give in medical treatment prophylaxis against rheumatic fever, which is very important, because if you don't give prophylaxis, there is a highly increased chance that the patient will develop rheumatic fever again. Also, now we will move on to surgical treatment. In surgical treatment, first there is PTMC. What is PTMC? Percutaneous transluminal mitral commissurotomy. Very long name. In percutaneous transluminal mitral commissurotomy, what we do is we pass a catheter through the femoral vein, making a perforation in the interatrial septum, and then moving it to the left atrium and into the mitral valve. A balloon is passed through this catheter, and when it reaches the mitral valve, it is inflated to keep the valves open. Also, we do this if the patient leaflets are pliable. There is a certain criteria for PTMC. The criteria has following steps, or allows the following person to go under PTMC. If the person do not fills the criteria, he or she cannot go under PTMC. What is the criteria? Number 1, patient should be symptomatic. Number 2, patients should have isolated mitral valve stenosis. There should be no regurg, means the blood should not flow back from the left atrium into the left ventricle into the left atrium. Number 3, patients should have pliable leaflets, means the walls should not be calcified or stenosed. The patient should not have developed pulmonary hypertension. These are few criteria that a patient must fulfill before undergoing PTM. It is also indicated in patients who have developed pulmonary hypertension and also in patients who have developed thrombus. A patient must fulfill this criteria if he or she wants to undergo PTMC. If the criteria is not fulfilled, then there are other procedures under which the patients must go, but PTMC is not one of them. Closed valvotomy and open valvotomy. It is done. There is a difference between these two. One major factor is cost. This is highly costly. This is not so costly. And another factor is if the patient has thrombus, then you do not do this. You do this. The detail and the procedure is not so important. Then we do mitral valve repair and mitral valve replacement. What is the criteria of mitral valve replacement? The criteria is if the patient has developed mitral regurg, has thrombus, or if the patient has not go under PTMC, or if the patient has severe or moderate mitral valve stenosis. These are the major treatments, and now we will move on to prognosis. What is the prognosis? The prognosis is simple, that mortality rate is very low during the surgery, but if the patient develops left ventricular hypertrophy, then the mortality rate can be increased. So it is good to do surgery before the patient develops left ventricular dysfunction. The patient will also need lifelong anticoagulation and monitoring. I hope you understand this video. Please make sure to like, subscribe and comment. And I will see you all in my next video. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.